Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
The most recent I felt nervous is when I was talking to a girl. I do get those butterflies, but that's the only thing.
Is that when you jizzed in your pants?
Can confirm.
Oh, shit. Well, I didn't really want to start the episode like that, but I'm John Hunter, your host, along with...
I'm Dylan Boogs, co-host, and the guy who sits in the background.
Dude, I'm real happy that, like, because a lot of times I say and then you just sit there like a fucking idiot. But you're doing, hey, 2020, new you. New year, new you.
Looks like I gotta step it up.
Take it to another fucking level, Boog.
Let's fucking do this!
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Turn it down a notch there.
You wanna know something hilarious?
Yeah, I mean, always.
So, I just opened up my files on my computer.
All of them. You open every file.
The most recently saved thing on my computer is number 67 from the Japan Football League.
Oh, God.
I did the snipping tool and snipped out his face. Don't know what I'm going to use that for later, but...
Hey, that could come in handy.
That's going into the vault.
For reference at home, we somehow fell down one of those YouTube rabbit holes, and we watched this video of the 2019 Japanese American Football Bowl. So it's like American football in Japan, and the quality of play not very high, but there was some real, no offense, I mean, hey, they're out there playing, but real derpy looking people out there. So if you get a chance to look up, I can't remember the team name. Was he on the white team, like the white jersey team?
Yeah.
All right, number 67 on the white jersey team. Do yourself a favor, look it up. Anyway, so we're here today. We just recently went and saw the new 2020 movie Underwater, about creatures. Get this, under the water.
Dude, don't spoil it. I can't believe you just spoiled it.
Spoiler. Initial thoughts. I didn't hate it.
I knew nothing about this going into it besides Kristen Stewart was in it, and I was literally blind. I think I saw one preview for maybe 7 seconds, and I stopped watching it because I shit my pants or something.
Also, you have like a very small attention span. I've actually been meaning to talk to you about that recently, Boog. You might want to go get tested for
ADHD?
I mean, yeah, numerous things, but ADHD would be for sure.
Probably. I don't know. I've always thought just because
or maybe like a adult onset stupidity, if that's a thing.
Mental retardation.
Ooh, that's too far. I feel like they would have caught that earlier on.
You never know.
All right, well, pretty much this was a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. If you don't like water, you're not going to like this movie.
So that's something too. Luckily, I decided, which I never really do, but I did just come from dinner before I got there. But
did you eat fish?
No. Actually, I'd say a little bit about me. I do not like fish. Not a seafood person.
Not a boy.
But
Go get crabs the old-fashioned way.
No, it was, we went out to this like nice place for dinner or anything. Anyway, like you were already at the theater when I got there.
Theater,
so
yes.
I didn't end up getting a drink, but if you were to go into this movie to see it, maybe getting the extra large Coke or whatever you get. I think root beer. You got root beer. It's
Yeah,
irrelevant. Don't
I
get
got
a
root beer.
large drink because you might just be having to piss in the movie theater.
Hey,
What were your initial thoughts of the movie?
well, can I just start off with a joke? Why are there fish at the bottom of the sea?
Why? Why are there Boog?
Because they dropped out of school.
All right, well, that's been our episode. First episode 2020.
Yeah,
This is our last episode.
I think we're gonna put it up for the podcast of the year 2020. I know there's gonna be a lot of competition, a lot of good things happening in the rest of 2020, but I feel confident in our decision.
Dog, that would have to be
This
like
number.
the turnaround of 2020. If we were to go from the point that we're at right now to get that, like, we're hitting all time low here. We're not. So that's one thing that I'll give this movie credit with. Well, I guess credit for is the pace that it has. Like, it starts off. There's probably like 2-3 minutes of like Kristen Stewart just being there's like a weird like narration voiceover and her just like showering or something, and the next thing you know, like water's bursting and there's running, and from that point on, the pace of the movie is like breakneck, like
Wait,
nonstop, like driving forward, and so that's something that's good. I like about this movie. There was really no sitting around.
well, hold on. She wasn't. It didn't start off with her showering. It started off with her brushing her teeth. Don't get all excited. Put your dicks back in your pants. You don't see nothing. Just her brushing her teeth, and she's like bald in this. So like,
Hey,
I don't.
that could be somebody's thing. You can't be judging people.
I'm not. I'm
Not
not.
my thing, but hey, to each their
Yeah,
own.
it is not my thing. I will admit that.
All
I
right,
don't
so
like short hair.
all right, let's get on into this. We're meandering too much here, but so this movie came out on the 10th. I think it was the 10th, January 10th. Directed by William Eubank, who he really hasn't done too much. Looking at his IMDb, he directed like a sci-fi type thriller, The Signal, in 2014. And then before that, he directed the movie Love, which was like a tie-in with the band Angel and Airwaves, like their album. Which I didn't watch the movie, but the album was like, all right. I kind of like Angels and Airwaves. I'm a Blink 182 Tom DeLonge guy, so um, I mean that was like coming through middle school, high school, like my age group. So don't be judging, but I am a fan. So I guess I didn't see that part of his work, so I was surprised when I saw that. But he really doesn't have too many other projects. I think he did a solid job with what he had here. Um, there was some cool set pieces and things like that. I really don't think he could have done anymore. Um, and I thought maybe this might be low. I guess it's low budget by our standards now, but it was still a $80 million film. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but some of the we're always going back on this, but if it's bad CGI, it could take you out of it. And there were certain portions. Some of it looked good, but there were some portions, like I remember one point in the theater, that first person shot where the glass is cracking on his underwater like visor. When you're saying like, you're like, is this just me or is this that like really bad looking? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty bad looking.
Yeah, it's pretty bad looking.
All right, so cast wise, we were already talking. Kristen Stewart, definitely the most famous person in this. Everyone knows her from the stupid Twilight series that set vampires and werewolves back like 2 decades. But since that's been over, they've been on the uptick. Honestly, like she gets a bad rep because the Twilight, like there's you can be a good actor or actress and be in a role that's doesn't give you the range to let your acting chops show. Um, and honestly, I would say that in this movie, she doesn't really have that space to like show acting. Like it was almost like she wasn't there. She was the main character, but it was almost like she wasn't there. And I don't really put that on her because I've seen her act in other like a movie that she was in that I really enjoyed, Adventureland. Because she almost has this like deadpan, almost uninterested style, and in certain roles that'll work well, but in a role like this, I don't think that would be the best
Adventureland was
choice.
kind of the same role though. She plays the side slot. Oh my goodness, the shy character that's just like a background character, pretty much. Like she doesn't do too much in it.
She's the female lead in that movie, Boog. I don't know if you ever
Yeah, but
seen
she's
Adventureland.
shy. She's quiet. She doesn't show emotion. Like
I don't know. I
I don't
thought
know, dude.
she like it's reserved, but like there's certain like I thought she acted really well in Adventureland. Not so much here, but on to the other main female lead in this movie, Jessica Henwick. Most people would know her from she had a brief stint in, well, I guess not brief, 2 year stint in Game of Thrones as Nymeria Sand, which I mean, I watched that series. I didn't remember that, but most people, I feel like would know her. She was Colleen Wing in the Marvel like series on Netflix. So she was in Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and then that combined one of the Defenders. Um, Other than that, nothing too major here. Oh, I guess she was briefly. So actually, this is crazy. I saw this story um, over the weekend. She was actually auditioned for 6 months to play Rey in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Wait, who?
Rey,
Jessica Henwick?
yeah, Jessica, the British. I guess she's half British, half Chinese actress. Is she Chinese?
Really?
Yeah, she's definitely. Well, sorry, I
She
apologize. Asian, of Asian descent. I'm not sure if it's Chinese.
she definitely has a little bit of
Asian,
that look
yeah.
to her.
But she actually, it came out, she auditioned for 6 months and almost got the role of Rey. So that would have changed up that series a lot. But she ended up having a smaller role, um, in the Force Awakens. But she would end up being in that movie, but a lot smaller part. And then the other actor that most people recognize, and I guess he is a little bit more of a problematic person due to some of his past situations he's found himself in over the past few years, like calling a bomb threat in
On a
on a
train.
public train. Yeah, but I I can separate the actor from. I mean, as long as it's not something like insane, like he didn't kill somebody or stab somebody.
He
Um,
just got a little too coked out of his
he
mind.
did. So that's a message for you kids at home. Don't do drugs, or if you do drugs, don't ride trains and call them bomb threats.
Hey, everything in proportion.
It's moderation, you fucking idiot.
Oh my goodness, dude! I'm having an off night. Should we just call it
You having an off like past 2 decades.
clear?
All right.
Oh
So
my god.
anyway, the actor's T.J. Miller. Um, Probably his biggest movie role.
Deadpool.
The sidekick in Deadpool 1 and 2, hilarious. And that like
The
his what I was saying, like besides his like um personal life and the stuff that he fucks around with, like his acting, like his comedy's hilarious. Like his delivery, it's like goofy and he actually adds. And I honestly think he stole a lot of scenes in this movie. Um, but I also going through this the actors here and looking at their filmography, there was a few connections to some other like the where the monsters look similar to the creatures in like Cloverfield and stuff like that. I found connection. T.J. Miller, obviously, he was Hudson, who he was in it, but most of the time he was like the camera guy behind the camera in the original Cloverfield, as well as the um, Smith, who was another one of the engineers. He was in 10 Cloverfield Lane. He played the other guy that was in the bunker with John Goodman. There was some connections there, and this seems like it was weird. I know I read an article where one of the guys was trying to say like, "Oh, this seems like it could have fit into the Cloverfield universe, but it definitely does." Like it was a waste of an article, but there is some connections to Cloverfield there, and the monsters Not so much not going to spoiler, but the most common monster in it had it looked like a smaller, like Cloverfield monster, kind of.
For sure. For
But the
sure.
guy that played Smith, John Gallagher, he does have a little bit of a horror background as well. Besides, there is a little bit of horror elements in 10 Cloverfield Lane, but more sci-fi. But he was actually our man, Mike Flanagan. That Netflix movie he directed, Hush. He actually played the killer in that. And I remember sitting in the theater and I saw him like I know this guy from something. Like when you see someone's face, you're like I recognize this guy. It wasn't until I went and looked up the stuff and saw that um, he was the killer in that movie. Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, thanks. I never saw that movie.
Well, still watch it. It's actually a real solid movie.
Yeah, give it a shot. You never know.
Then the other main character you got here is the captain of the drilling operation, played by Vincent Castle, and he is famous for he has a lot of bit roles, but he was also in. I guess this is kind of horror. There's some horror type elements there, but the Black Swan with Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis.
I'd say that's that's more creepy than horror.
And it looks like he is in the new season of Westworld on HBO, which I haven't got around to watching, but I've only heard good things. So watch it. Let me know. Hey, email me. Let me know if it's worth watching.
What's your email?
I'll tell you at the end of the episode, Boog. You can barely even send a text. I don't know how you're going to be able to send an email.
You want to know how I send text? Here, I'll give you a little demo.
Oh, I almost forgot about this guy. He was in the beginning part of the movie. He's not in it very long, but fuck, everybody had an easy name until it came to this guy. And I apologize if you're listening to this, which is zero chance, but is his name Mamadou Athie?
I got this.
I think it's Mamadou.
Mamadou Athie. Mamadou Athie.
Okay. But he plays Rodrigo in this film. He was in it for a short amount of time. We'll get into that, but he had a couple funny lines as well. And basically his background, a lot of smaller indie films. Nothing that I've ever seen. Okay, all right. So we'll get into the plot breakdown here. All right. So most of the movie takes place. Actually, I'm not going to start it like that, Boog. So most of the movie.
Were you about to say most of the movie takes place underwater?
I was. All right. So this movie is about an underwater base. So most of this movie, what happened?
I just said, "Ooh, my goodness."
Yeah. Most of this movie takes place under.
You ever watch NBA TNT with Shaq and like
Charles Barkley? Yeah, it's
you
great.
Ever see Shacked in a Fool?
In a what?
We're not shacked in a full. Shacked in a full. Like,
oh yeah.
We're
Shacked
not
in a
in
full.
the same league as them. We made number one to the list for tomorrow.
Because we were shacked in a full.
This is our underwater podcast. It's about the movie Underwater. Now, you may be surprised, but majority of this movie takes place underwater.
Yeah, but what you're going to really be surprised about is that we actually record this whole podcast underwater.
Damn, I'll tell you one thing. You ain't never going to see a bird in this movie. Because there are no birds underwater, just fish.
All right, so the movie starts out, TN Industries has a drilling facility at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. A little background there. I don't know if it really is, but it's the deepest known point of the ocean, like to humans. There could be deeper.
It is. Well, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, because we haven't explored like a large percent.
We don't have to explore it to know it. We can just do like the sonic ray thingies for sound.
Yeah, but if there's something that broke it, you don't know. Hey, we'll just go agree to disagree.
Hey, I'm like 98% sure.
All right, so you know what I'm not really sure of? So they were down there to drill for resources. I don't know what resources they were drilling for. But anyway, so they're down at the bottom.
Bringing coal back.
They're down at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, drilling for resources. Um, Starts out like we were saying before, Kristen Stewart brushing her teeth, taking a shower, and she walks out into the hall, and then she hears like a sound outside, and next thing you know, it's starting to crunch in, water's pouring out. She takes off running in the pressure breach. As she's running down the hall, she runs into another one of the staff down there, Rodrigo. They're able to get through and shut off the one portion, and it closes the door shut and repressurizes so it doesn't destroy the whole Kepler facility. So their next step, they're panicked. They're like, I don't know what's going on here. We get a little bit of backstory from Nora, that she's been down at the bot. Like Rodrigo's relatively new, but Nora's been under the water for I think a couple months to a year, a long period of time. So she's like not like, because she was like not hacking into the computer, but changing stuff, and she doesn't really know like the like computer portions of it, but she can anything mechanical. She's a mechanical engineer, so she can rig it to work. This leads them. They make it over to the escape pods. They have a pod bay. In the pod bay, all of the pods have been deployed. The only person left is the captain of the whole facility, Lucian, played by Vincent Castles. They talk to him. They head up to the main control base there. A biologist, Emily, played by was it Jenna Henwick, and an engineer, Liam Smith. I guess they reference she's a biologist, but Emily's an intern as well. She doesn't have a lot of diving experience, and that's going to come into play here. Because the next thing they do, they come up with a plan. They determine if they stay at that portion of the base, it's going to implode. They have like a short amount of time, so they're going to have to make some decisions, and they decide if they take the crew of them, the diving suits, go to the bottom of the ocean and walk over to the drilling facility that they have separate from the main underwater base. There's escape pods over there, and they'll be able to get out that way. Super dangerous because you're walking under. What was it? They said it in the movie, the amount of tons per pressure at the bottom.
I don't remember that. All I remember is where they were underwater was like 6.7 miles deep at some points, and then 6.9 miles deep.
Nice.
I'm not I'm not I'm not no science genius, so I don't know exactly how much.
And the other thing, so you're so low, light doesn't travel that far. You're in the pitch black. All they had to go along were these markers that they had set up, like light markers.
They had flashlights on their gear, but
yeah, so
that only go so far.
They decide, well, this is our only option. The intern Emily's freaking out. She's never been in this type of situation. She's a biologist. She's not like a diver. Hasn't been down there that long. But they decide this is the only way. So I can't believe I skipped over this too. When they were heading to the pod bay, they had to crawl through some rubble. They saw a dead body in there, which was like a fresh, creepy looking dead body. No jump scare, so I do appreciate that. And they hear something, and they turn out. They move the rocks apart, and they find Paul under the rubble. Pull him out. He has a couple jokes, which I can't remember them, but they were funny. And that's played by T.J. Miller, so he's with them as well. They decide they'll head over to where the pressurized suits are. They're going to ride a lift down that'll take them to the bottom, and they'll commence with their plan to walk on the bottom of the ocean to the Roebuck station. So they take the elevator down. They get about halfway down, and they're kind of stuck because there's different pressurizing points. When that's happening, the door's starting to open, and the suit that Rodrigo has, the helmet was faulty. It had some cracks in it, so the pressurized actually blows him apart when it depressurizes, and it actually looked pretty cool. So it disorients them. They're freaking out, but he essentially gets exploded. Um, they start making their way a little bit further down, and they see one of the emergency lifts coming back up, and it's kind of stuck. So they decide, like, T.J. Miller. Well, I remember this funny part actually. Um, the captain says one of us is gonna have to go out there and check out that emergency, because if they're stuck, there's only a limited supply of oxygen. They're gonna be trapped in there. Um, so T.J. Miller's character says to the intern that has no experience, that's already panicked, said, "Well, Emily, this looks like it's your job." And she was like freaking out for a second. He's like, "Nah, I'm just fucking with you." So actually, T.J. Miller's character, Paul and Smith, go out there to check it out, and this is one of the parts that I really do like in the movie. It's pretty cool. So anytime that they're really going out in the water, it switches to a first person perspective through the helmet, and it kind of gives you that creepy, almost like a first person video game like atmosphere, where you can only see like where they're looking, and is there something moving in the shadows. And they go in there and they discover that something ripped apart the emergency transport lift there, and at first not find anything. They find dead bodies, and there's actually a small creature that kind of reminded me of like those chest bursters in Aliens, which that's something we'll talk about as well too. How this is almost like a greatest hits of other similar type movies, but they end up snagging that and bringing it back on the ship, killing it, and another little funny part. They briefly fight over like who gets to name it, because they discovered a new species. And while this is happening, something jumps on the top of um, their lift transport there. Power's cutting off, and then they're starting to freak out, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" And they get a little bit of a glimpse. So this is kind of like our first glimpse of like a big creature. Okay, so their lift transport crashes to the bottom of the ocean. They start making their way out. They're disoriented. They weren't expecting to come down this fast. And as they're making their way to the markers, the station behind them finally explodes. Starts shooting debris all over the place. You get a cool little like glimpses of creatures standing on stuff like that, but nothing too major yet. And one of the pieces of debris actually hits Smith and damages his oxygen tank. But they're able to grab him, drag him, and they make it to like a way station along the way, so they can recharge these oxygen units. Like, I don't know, they're like almost like oxygen coils or something like that. And then in there they find out that Smith's actually damaged, so he'll be like sucking in like toxic fumes. But they decide the only way to do it is they have to keep going forward, because there's no other option. So they help Smith along. When they finally get their oxygen recharged, and they head back out. And this pretty much is where everything starts hitting the fan. When they're making their way, one of the creatures comes out and snatches up the captain and drags him into the rubble. So Kristen Stewart's character, Nora, she goes after him, climbs under, is able to like get hooked with him and everything like that. Who is it that gets? Actually, Smith gets snagged first, and the captain goes after him.
Yeah.
Captain gets him and sets his gun. Like, they have like nail guns or whatever, like that rivet guns, and he goes back to grab that, and the creature starts grabbing him, but he's attached by a tether to Kristen Stewart's character, and this creature starts taking him up, dragging him all the way up. And the creatures aren't affected by rapid pressure change, but obviously humans are, and being at those depths, it's super serious and super dangerous to their underwater units. Which didn't really talk about those, but I thought those were pretty cool. They're very reminiscent of something out of like StarCraft or Mass Effect. Like, there's a lot of parts of this movie reminded me of a video game, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Anyway,
No, I say it's more good than bad. In my personal opinion, in my scale.
Yeah, I thought it really fit with the movie. so they end up getting stuck onto like it was like a floating like platform or something like that, and it starts dragging him further up, and she's holding on, and he's like you gotta let go, like we gotta cut this. So he takes his knife and actually cuts the cord. The creature drags him out, and the darkness kills him. She falls down. Fuck. Anyway, so
What?
I want to backtrack for a second because I forgot the time of the events, but Paul actually got killed earlier. He got killed before this. So when they were in the way station, it was portions of it were flooded, so they had to climb under um, this passageway, and each one took a turn, and the last one to come through was Paul, and he was attached on a tether, and he got pulled under when he was pretty much all the way through, but it started pulling him back, and he ended up getting pulled back through and crushed. And that was also a pretty cool kill scene where I guess the force or whatever crushed him, but like blood splattered in the helmet. Um, for a PG-13 movie, there was still a decent amount of gore in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. Like, so I would honestly
That's
say
like the
that,
most important part to me.
yeah, that was when the movie really took a turn there, because up until then, like, there was, I don't know, I felt like there was a good rapport between the characters. You cared about them. There was some lightheartedness going on, and then um, things picked up, but there wasn't that as much tension anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the whole situation. The captain cuts Nora loose, gets dragged away by the creature, killed. She falls back down, and she was pretty high up, so she falls down, disoriented on the bottom of the ocean. Um, doesn't know where she landed first off because it's pitch black. She can see markers, see some lights up ahead. She doesn't know if Emily and Smith are still alive because they're the only two left. And when they got pulled away, they were still standing there. So she just starts walking, tries to radio on the communication, can't hear them, and she comes across a separate substation that was actually deemed closed. The captain they briefly talked about maybe going over there and seeing if there was like a radio they could radio back topside and something like that, but the captain actually said like no, that's been shut down, everything like that. But she finds that, goes in there. Her suit's pretty banged up from the encounter with that creature. Her coil's pretty messed up too, but she goes in there. She finds another suit, as well as a locker that belonged to the captain. And in there, so she goes into the captain's locker, and there is like pictures up on the wall, different areas circled where they might drill, and then also there was a pretty obvious picture of like a Cthulhu underwater creature with some things written about it. And she briefly looks at it, and I thought she was going to read into it more, see what was going on, but then she just says something stupid and like closes it. And I thought like it was cool. It was cool how they set it up. Like, oh, that captain and those people knew there was something down here. But then they never mention it again. There, you can't confront the captain because he's dead. And like she didn't look. There was more information there, and she didn't really read it. Like I get that maybe she was disoriented and panicking because she's in like a life or death situation, and she just saw a couple of her friends get killed and things like that. But she really didn't convey that because she really doesn't show any emotion in this movie. But that part kind of frustrated me. But you do get a pretty cool backstory there as well. So I did like how they did that at a few points in this movie. I know we're just glossing over it with like the synopsis here, but I'll talk about it a little bit more when we go into like pros and cons and things like that. But so from there, she got the new suit and everything like that, and she decides like I don't know if Emily and Smith are still alive, but I'm gonna head out there and see if I can get to the escape pods and keep talking. So she's trucking along. She finds this another type of like nail rail gun, something like that. So that it's like a video game. She got an upgraded suit and a better weapon. So she starts walking on the bottom of the ocean again, following the markers. And then she starts picking up a signal that Emily's still out there, and she's just like talking and talking to Smith, and she's panicked because she's at the bottom of the ocean and she's not really used to being in the situation. I mean, not many people are, but she comes up to him and is able to like let him know like, hey, like we're gonna keep going, everything like that. So Smith's like pretty much he's like unconscious. Like I said this in the movie, like he had the best plan. Like most of the movie, he's like unconscious and out of it, so he just gets drug around.
So pretty much he just showed up to his audition. Like he just took some sleeping pills. Was like, hey guys, is this all right? They're like, dude, that's perfect.
I
He's
just
like,
picture the audition going
"Can you-
like, play
can-"
the dude that played him, John Gallagher. They're like, John, do you think you could sleep for about 60 minutes of this movie? He's like, oh no, I'll try it. They're like, all right, well, we're gonna want you to sleep for 60 minutes. Let's see how this goes. And then they're like, yeah, he got this.
hey John, I don't know if you don't mind, but can you lay on the floor right there on top? Yeah, on top of that green screen.
Oh yeah,
Great.
oh yeah,
Great.
oh yeah, that's nice.
All right, now just stay there and action. That's all it took.
Pretty much. So he's unconscious. They drag him all the way up to the Roebuck station. So they get close, and there's like a tunnel leading in. And then they realize, like, oh shit, we got to turn our lights off because there's all these things like dangling down. And it turns out the creatures are sleeping or like hibernating, something like that, on like the roof there. And that reminded me a lot if anyone's ever played Half-Life, like how there's certain portions where like there's the creatures that have like the it's like a tentacle like dangling down, and if you walk by, they'll grab you and suck you up. So
Yep.
they start making their way through these like real slowly, avoiding the arms. They just have to get to this door, and then they'll be inside. About halfway through, Emily's breathing unit goes off, like beeping, like siren going off, like low oxygen, 10% oxygen, like refill immediately, something like that. And it starts waking the creatures up. So she tells her, just drag Smith, run, go, like I'll hold him off. And the creatures start waking up. One grabs her and just like pretty much just beats the shit out of her. Like just literally just is throwing her around. And starts like it's pretty cool. Like the creature like detaches its jaw and starts sucking her in. And when she does that, she actually shoots it with that gun she has from the inside, and kills it. But there's a bunch of them. But she ends up getting into the station with them as well. So we'll stop here before the spoilers.
I mean, you're pretty much just told like I'd say 90% of the movie.
So that's just basically like how it flows, but I didn't go into any more about some of the characters' backstories and things like that. But we'll talk about that.
Gotcha.
Before that, though, pros and cons. What do you?
I got 3 and 3.
Okay, let's say lead it off here, Boog.
Pro, in my opinion, and you mentioned it before, video game pacing. Always some action, always a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You got a little bit of talking, journey, like a little bit of talking, action, a little bit of talking, action.
Yeah, the pace on it was pretty cool from this style movie. Like you you get like 2 minutes at the beginning, and then it's like what they got to do, like what the problem is, and you just go from there. You gotta get from point A to point B to point C. Along the way, you upgrade your suit, you upgrade your weapon. Like it's very reminiscent of a video game, and the pacing it brings it on. Like that's the part where I got a little bit confused, not confused, but like a little bit like not that it was confusing, but it confused me how with a pacing like that and in the way that it was going, like how it fell off about halfway through. You know what I'm saying? Like,
There's a big reason, and I'll get to that later. At least
okay,
what I think. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
yeah,
Let me do another pro for me is T.J. Miller. I know he's had a rough time in the past, but he was freaking hilarious in this movie, and I'm so happy that he had a good role, you
Yeah,
know.
I agree with you.
He's
I didn't know
he's a
he was.
naturally funny guy. His the monotone that he like he uses is just like, ugh, it's perfect for the
That's
comedy.
I didn't realize he was in it till they lifted up that rubble when they were rescuing a person and it was him. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know he was in this movie.
He was
Um,
just under the rubble holding a
his
bunny, and they're
line,
like,
yeah,
"Is your line? Are your legs strapped?" And he's like, "No, I thought I was just gonna lay here and die."
yeah, that was another funny line when later on when she was Nora and the captain were talking about their plan to walk on the bottom of the ocean to go to the other facility to get the pods. TJ Miller was like, "What the hell? Like, if I knew we were gonna do this, I would just said just leave me under that rubble."
Yeah, yeah,
Another great line he had was when like the creatures were banging or they like on the one thing, and then he saw like something come by like one of the windows, and he's like, "All right," he's like, "If I hear one more thing like this, he's like, I'm gonna shit my pants."
oh
Yeah,
man,
but I would definitely agree. He definitely like
he made it
so.
funny.
So
Like
that's
he's the
something that
reason why I
yeah
give
that
this
that
movie like
kind of
some
messes
credit.
it up though. Is he Nora Kristen Stewart's character is the main character, but when TJ Miller's on screen, he steals all the scenes that he's in.
Yeah, yeah, oh
But
yeah,
I think so. I'll say that might be one of my cons is that when he gets killed in the movie, the rest of the movie's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like it had me going up until that point, but when he gets killed, it kind of just like fizzled off for me.
yeah, oh yeah.
Um, Another one of my pros was the first person sequences. I thought the tension that they built in that was really good.
I so
And at one
I
point, they just kind of did away with those, but I really like those because it's so dark and it's only lit like a little bit in front of their face. Like the light doesn't travel that far. Like that's a darkness that we don't know. That's the bottom of the ocean. But that was awesome. Like honestly, like we just said it, but that reminded me a lot of like a creepy first person video game. If you ever played like Alien Isolation, a game like that, um, where like you felt like you were in that scene, like you were in like a claustrophobic like suit and you're trapped at the bottom of the ocean. I thought that those sequences were done really well.
I don't know. So I actually had a con when it came to the camera angles.
Okay.
Not mainly about the first person. The first person, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not saying all the camera.
It was good.
I'm just saying the first person camera angles. I definitely think there was an issue with some of the way that some of the other scenes were shot.
My biggest con about this movie is it's kind of personal opinion, really, but that's what I like. That's what I look for, you know.
Well, all of this
Uh,
is personal opinion. You
yeah.
idiot.
Well, this sounds real personal.
They came to
Um.
your house and beat you. That would be a
Uh.
con. Well, that'd be a pro for me if they came to your house and beat the shit out of you. I'd be like, okay,
You
this
don't have
movie's
to
a
do
10 out of 10.
that. That's a terrible movie. I'm just gonna tell you right now.
But hey,
2 out of
it's
10.
all subjective.
I'll give it a solid 2 out of 10. Why not 1 out of 10? Because the main actor, me, is badass. But I only get 1 star because I know my value. I know my worth. Um, no, but the one con that I have about the camera angles is I wish there's a way that they could have zoomed out in the when they were in the smaller like ships, what like areas and whatnot, just to show truly how compact they were so far under the sea. Because I thought
Yeah,
that would have added a really
yeah. So
nice like
like
claustrophobic
that's
feel for it.
that's a good point. I didn't really think about that till you said that, but that actually is a good point. So when they would do like the overhead shots and stuff like that, you'd see like the one underwater base and the Kepler and the other one they went to Roebuck, but it was like still you're like on top of it, so you're like, oh, it's not that like they never
It doesn't
really
yeah, it doesn't
what they
look that
needed was a
small.
couple higher up establishing shots, like maybe have a shot where it's like at the bottom and it pulls back, and it really just shows you how far down they are. That establishing shot, like you said, that would help to instill that claustrophobia that like they really are trapped. Like a movie that does that well. Came out a couple years back, that shark movie 47 meters down.
Yeah,
So
they do that.
it really plays on it, because it'll have the people down in the cage and it'll pull back up and realize like they're 40 fucking 7 meters down, and these people are up on the boats. So you got that juxtaposition there, the people on the boat, people at the bottom, like, and you actually see how far. So yeah, mate, and that's a simple fix. That's one or two establishing shots that could solve that. But that's a real good point, Boog. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
just how
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Boog.
That's just how I felt about it. If they pushed the camera back a little bit, it really shows how tight of an area it was, and how, I mean, millions of people are affected with claustrophobia. So like that's a big push on it, and that's another fear that you could input in this movie.
So another one of my cons, it's a little bit weird. So at the very beginning of the movie, they have a brief like narrating. I thought maybe it might be later on, like a recording, or maybe Nora was like being interviewed afterwards, but no, not spoiling it now, but that's not what happens. But there was the brief like narration at the beginning and narration at the end, and they were just so out of place. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just didn't fit with the movie.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely.
And then the other con that I had briefly talked about before, but the CGI in parts was very lackluster. There was a crack on the mask, and it just looked so bad.
Oh, it was miserable.
And a lot of the CGI you could get away with too, because it was so dark in some of the scenes, and you really couldn't see everything made out. But a lot of it looked like bad, like PlayStation 3, not even PlayStation 4, like PlayStation 3 graphics, you know?
Yeah.
And that could be budgetary reasons. I mean, the budget was still 80 million, but in today's day, if you don't have $100 million budget for like a big project, you're not going to get that quality CGI. Even then, not saying that you will, but you don't really have a chance. Something of like this scope, like a whole underwater base and everything like that. But yeah, the CGI was disappointing. But on a positive note, like a pro, I did. So like the main like humanoid creatures, I like their designs. It was a little bit derivative of like a Cloverfield creature, or that movie that came out a few years ago, like Super 8. But those are, I feel like they try to make a more like realistic looking creature than like a Godzilla or something like that. But I thought those were pretty cool designed, as well as I'll talk about it, but when we do the spoilers here in a minute. But other creature designs were really cool too.
Yeah.
Hey, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're a big creature guy. I'm not crazy about them.
You're not really a big fan of them critters.
I'm not a big fan of them critters. Watch out, Dad, them gators are back again.
That Godzilla vs King Kong trailer should be coming out soon.
Oh.
So you got any more pros or cons for me here, Boog?
Let me see. So I did that one. Did that one. Oh, I thought the twist with the captain. I forget? Did you mention that, like the twist with the captain and his daughter?
No, that was going to be in the spoilers, Boog.
Okay, well I'll talk about that one later.
Yeah.
Because that's the main, that one, and yeah, we'll talk about it later then. Oh wait. Terrible writing. Terrible writing.
Do you care to elaborate?
Yeah. When Nora and Emily are walking on the seafloor to a base, it's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you're saying. So you mean terribly written dialogue?
yeah, that's what I meant. Terribly
Yeah.
written dialogue. When Emily and Nora are walking towards base, and they're dragging,
Myth.
um, yeah, they're dragging Smith. Nora is just casually talking because Emily and Smith are like they love each other. They're in love, and they're just casually like, "So do you?" Nora's like, "So do you love him?" Emily's like, "Yep, I love him." Nora just goes, "Cool. Well, let's keep walking." And they literally
and I
just keep
and I
walking.
know that sounds ridiculous, but the way that Boog just delivered that performance is exactly spot on how they delivered in the movie. I just remember laughing. Like I looked at Boog in the theater and I was like, is that really how they decided? Like that was the best take they had. They're like, okay, we got it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, you kidding me? Are you are you are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think besides TJ Miller's jokes, which I felt like he probably was improvising a lot of the dialogue was a little bit weak. A lot of it weak.
Yeah, a lot of it weak for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so that's all the pros and cons we got there.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, cool. Let's get into a little bit of a spoiler action here. All right, so some spoilers here for you guys. So after they get into the Roebuck station there, um, they head up to the main control deck, uh, attached to where the escape pods are. They get Smith in one of the escape pods, strap him in, get it set to go up. Um, Emily's getting hers set, and Nora looks over at hers, and she realizes that her pod's defective. It's busted. She's not going to get out. But she makes the decision that um, Emily and Smith, like, they have a relationship. They they're going to be good together. Like, they should go. And then tying it back a little bit, it turned out that Nora used to be in a relationship with um, with another one of the engineers that was best friends with Smith on the ship. One time, he went out by himself on a dive to repair something. He didn't come back. Turned out he got killed. We don't know if it's from the creatures or what, but he got killed. So that's why she's been pretty much depressed, as well as she's been down there so long. She talks a little bit about how disorienting it is being down there so long. You kind of lose concept of time. But she sees a lot of like her relationship in them, so she's like, "You go." Emily's like, "No, like you go, whatever, like that." So Nora punches her right in the face and is like, "Sorry, but you're going." So gets in there. Um, they blast the pods off. As that happens, she looks out the front main.
She like slowly like
Yeah,
walks over to like
yeah.
the main.
She accepts that she's gonna die, so she's just sitting there. But she sees out front that there's this giant, and the best way to describe it's like Lovecraftian. Like it looks a lot like the Cthulhu creature from H.P. Lovecraft's
So
novels.
picture Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean cut off his head. That's what the creature looked like minus the hat.
Well, he also had like a humanoid body too. If like when he finally like started swimming up a little bit, but it's this giant, like the creature looks pretty awesome. Like it has like tentacles on its mouth, but like there's like sharp like things coming out of it, and then those little, well, they're not little, they're like probably like 10, 12 feet tall, like humanoid creatures that like were
But
giving.
compared to
Yeah,
him, they're
yeah,
tiny.
and they all just like attach to him and stuff like that. So that's what I was saying when I was talking about earlier about cool creature designs. Like he was well designed. um but he was either feeding off the energy or staying close to the base to keep himself warm. I'm not sure the specifics, but he was all around the base and like wrecking things. But the pods escape off, and then Nora sees on their display, in the control base, that a lot of the creatures peeled off of the giant one and are actually chasing after the pods to try to get them, and they're closing in. So Nora's like, fuck, I gotta do something. So she decides to um, like overheat the reactor of the Roebuck station, and when she does that, it causes an explosion, and then that's when it goes into that stupid um like narration where she has some stupid like one liner. It's about like, we're in the dark down here, like let's light this bitch up or something. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty.
it leads to a
It's
cool
big.
scene. So it shows the station blowing up, and it goes into slow motion, and like the water like stops, like the water that's inside of the station. Like it looks pretty cool, and she gets blown up and everything like that. But um, she ends up blowing up that creature, and it knocks the little creatures down, and the pods are able to escape. And the movie ends, but as it's ending, you get to see in the credits like newspaper articles. So it turns out that the company that owned the underground station, they're covering it up. They deleted, they destroyed all of like the surveillance footage. They said it got destroyed in the explosion. Classified all kinds of information. They're keeping Smith and Emily silent, as well as they do plan on going back there and starting to drill again. But you get all that through like newspaper clippings. So I thought that was pretty cool. How like
What's it
they
called?
explain that.
Epilogue?
What?
What? I always forget what it's called. Epilogue.
What's yeah, not real. I mean, I guess technically, I guess that could be like an epilogue, but epilogue would be like if it cut back and said. But I don't know. I don't know the specifics, but I thought it's pretty cool. But at the same time, I felt like they missed a good opportunity. Like if you would have kept the captain, like if you would have done it in a different series, like if Nora would have found out that the captain knew about these creatures from like the information that was in his locker, and he was still alive, and she could have confronted him, that could have added more to the story. Maybe you got a little bit more background, like something like in the original Aliens movie. Um, you find out that actually, I don't know if you find that out to the second one, but you eventually do find out that the company that sent them out there already knew about these creatures and was trying to bring one back. So this is something like you could have played it up differently and added more to the story. I thought that if that captain knew about that and they could give you a backstory like, oh, our company knows about this, like we're trying to get these creatures or something like that, or even if it wasn't like he's like, I don't know if we know, but we've seen him before, so maybe like your opinion on him would change. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I thought they could have done that a little bit better. Um, but then some of the other things we didn't talk about going through, spoiler wise. So the captain's always talking about, or they're always asking about, like, oh, you have a daughter, right? Like, in that one point, he's like, yeah, she's 14. And then Nora corrects him and it's like, she'd be about like my age now, like mid 20s, something like that. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I said 14. And then later on, you find out in his locker when she was looking through the stuff, she found like one of those little cards you get at viewings, like for funerals.
Like an
And
obituary
yeah,
card.
and then his daughter had actually already been dead, and she died when she was 14. So you find a little bit about that.
Which is a con for me because I thought that was just stupid. I don't know why they put that in there. I mean, I guess it shows like
No,
emotion.
I thought
I
that
thought that was dumb.
no. See, I thought the opposite. I thought that added to his character. So that explains why when they first were going to the escape pods in the other place, why he stayed back when all the pods were gone. Kind of like the decisions he makes, like how he sacrifices himself so that the others could get away. So it just lets you know like why he spends so much time down there and he cares about his crew and stuff like that, because back on the surface he's divorced. It turns out his daughter's been dead. Like it gives you, it adds to his character in my opinion.
I don't know. I just thought it was a dumb. I mean, I get why they did it, but I didn't think it was really necessary for the story. Because he really didn't like. I don't know. In my opinion, he didn't have a big enough impact for him to have like a serious background like that.
I don't know.
So
I thought I mean it doesn't make or break the story, but I thought it added to it a little bit.
I thought it was I thought it was just a cheap filler for Nora, Kristen Stewart, to get a fire lit under her ass to start moving again.
Yeah, I don't know. If they would have, I had no issue if they would have taken that out and she would actually just read what was written in the in
Yeah,
his locker.
exactly.
Like
You
that
could
was
have.
the part that was frustrating because you can clearly see like the creature and there's stuff written out beside it, and like I don't, I don't know. She's like I forget what she said. Something stupid to like, oh that captain of mine, and then close the door. All
Oh,
right. Well, that's the spoilers. Let's get into recommendations and ratings. I'll go first on this one if you want.
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So as far as recommendations, um, I would recommend this to. I wouldn't necessarily say see it in theaters, but if it's streaming Netflix, Hulu, something like that, um, it's definitely entertaining. So I'd watch it. Um, Pretty much you can watch it. It's PG-13, nothing too crazy. There's a little bit of gore in there, not too scary, anything like that.
No
You can
jump
watch it with,
scares.
yeah, you could. Uh,
I don't think
there's
there
like
is. I don't
mine or
remember.
like when that creature like comes out of when it's in that first person, the creature comes out of that body, that little one.
Oh yeah, yeah, jump scare.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much anyone could watch this. It's entertaining. It's got enough where like you can put it on and you're not gonna get too invested. It's not complex at all. Not it's like point A to point B to point C, like bang bang bang, quick pace. Only about 90 minutes. It's not gonna ruin your day. As far as ratings, I'd give this 6.5 out of 10. Like not terrible, not anything special. A little frustrating because there's parts that could have been tuned up, done a little bit better. I'm not sure what their constraints were. A little interesting fact though, I did see when I was doing some research for this that this movie was filmed by Fox in the spring of 2017, but
Mm-hmm.
due to that whole Fox Disney merger, like when Disney bought Fox, they shelved it and didn't get released till 2020. So this movie's actually been filmed for almost 3 years.
I was gonna say I
Almost,
just saw a
almost
picture of
actually, yeah,
Kristen Stewart and she has long hair,
yeah.
but in this she definitely cut it because that's or else the makeup artist deserves to be paid billions of dollars.
Oh, I remembered another funny T.J. Miller line. Um, that's another one. If you're a fan of T.J. Miller, I would recommend this movie to you. When he see like she says something, he get or she saves him like out of the rubble, and he goes, oh, it's Nora. He's like, Nora, you flat chested elf woman.
Yeah, she comes out and he's like, Nora, I've never been so happy to see your ch- flat chested elf ass or something like that.
Yeah, it was
I
funny.
don't know. It was funny as hell.
Yeah, so if you like his style of comedy, you'll enjoy the at least first half of this movie. Um, we really didn't talk about it too much. Like this goes along with spoilers, but the ending was a little disappointing. Like I'm cool with what they did, like how she stayed back and sacrificed herself, but something just seemed a little bit off. Like after like T.J.
TJ Miller
Miller's
died.
character dies, like the tension's off. So it goes from being like suspenseful and like a creepy horror style movie to just like I don't know. I feel like the pace ramped up even more, where like there's no like the fear's like out of it, like the tension's out of it, and then just happens, and then you're done.
Yeah, it was definitely like to me it felt like as soon as TJ Miller was so funny in this, it was perfect. It added comedy relief to the story. But as soon as he left, they didn't have that comedy, so it relied on Kristen Stewart's acting abilities. And not that she's a terrible actress, I think, it's just the role was the character that
Yeah,
she was
I
given
don't think the
wasn't
role
great.
was right for her, and I
Uh,
don't think it was particularly written all that well.
no, so like after after T.J. Miller's character dies, after Paul dies, I feel like they were just trying to rush this, just like, well, this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, because there's no comedy relief. You just kind of got to dig deep and get through it at that point, you know. So, my overall rating for this movie, I actually did not like it that much. I would not recommend it to go see in the theaters. Maybe with a group of friends. Actually, no, I wouldn't even recommend it. This is a movie. If you're bored, you just want to throw something on to fall asleep to. I'd throw this on, like if it's on Netflix or something. My overall rating for it, I give it a 4 out of 10. I'm not a big creature person. Um, it's just personal opinion, really. You may like creatures. I know, John, you absolutely love
Yeah.
creatures, and because you like to see the makeup and see like how they've been
Yeah, I
created,
like
what they
the
look
effects
like.
and the design.
Yeah, I'm not a big creature person. I've said this before. I'm more of a ghost, a paranormal type of horror buff. So,
Yeah.
um, like I said, because of that, it's a 4 out of 10 in my book. Not horrible, but I don't recommend watching this in the theaters, and that's the biggest part of me. It's not worth spending
Yeah.
10, $15 to go see it.
I
It's something, if it's on Netflix and you're bored, you already pay $10 a
yeah.
month, flip it on, you know?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with it is that it plays a lot like greatest hits from other like similar style movies in the genre, like underwater horror or even like space, like with aliens. It pulls a lot from like the Alien series. Um, but the worst part is all of those movies, like anything that it tries to either imitate or is derivative of the original, did it so much better than they did.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know, you can't beat classics.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's still like if you have a good story to tell and everything, it's like maybe that's the issue with it is there's really not a story to tell here. It's literally just something happens and they try to survive. Like it, I was still entertained when I left, but
I got,
it is frustrating that there is the potential for it to be better for sure.
yeah, I got bored
It's
with
not
it.
like a situation where there's no redeemable qualities and they were so off basis. Like they weren't far off from having a quality film there. And that's why I would recommend it to just give it a watch if it comes to streaming, which I'm sure it will.
Or if it's just like on TV one day and you're like, well, this is my life now, you know?
Yeah.
One of those situations. Flip it on. Um, I was actually thinking, how bad would a movie be? So remember Meg? We saw Meg last year.
Mm-hmm.
How bad would
Was that last year or 2 years ago now?
I
I don't
think it was
know.
last year? How bad would it have been if you had this movie like underwater scenery, but instead of the main creature, it was with the Meg? I think it
Dude,
would have been a lot more
I'm not even kidding
relatable.
you. I was sitting in the movie theater and I had that exact thought. I was like, I think that actually might work better because
Yeah,
the issue, and we talk about this, is with shark movies is this the issue is there's always like you're up on land and you're like there's sharks eating people on my beach. Like even the all time favorite movie, all time classic Jaws. Like the real solution is like don't go in the water.
yeah,
But here, this situation would actually work. Like if that would have been like the Meg movie, you're in this underwater drilling facility. The one place is going to explode. You have no choice. All the escape pods are gone. You have no choice, but you're gonna have to expose yourself and walk on the bottom of the ocean out to the other facility.
yeah,
Like
exactly. And that would have been
that
bad
solves the
as a
problem in
shark.
that shark movie scenario where it's like, how do I put my characters in danger that they can't
Yeah,
avoid?
exactly.
That
And I feel
yeah.
like, unfortunately, sharks are a much more feared creature than an octopus because he's an octopus head, the main creature. Well, he's a
I'd
giant
say it's more like
octopus, but
squid,
still.
like a squid head.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
still, like I thought that I thought you could have more potential with a movie like combination like that. than you do with this movie.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree. That's why there was a point when it was showing, like, I think it was when the Kepler station blew up, that I thought, like, you know what, like, if this is how they went about that Meg movie, because they were in the underwater sea base near the Mariana Trench, like, that could have been a more enjoyable story. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
Exactly.
All right, well, that's underwater for you. And spoiler alert, we are not underwater.
Yeah, it's underwater.
Do you think we could record a podcast underwater?
That's what it sounded like.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be you get electrocuted, but
hey, I'll take the risk for my viewers.
but underwater, like in a submarine or something. I don't know. All right, well, let's get into it here. Let's get into the stupid stuff. So if you have any comments, any movies, suggestions you want us to review, we're at the point of the year. We have like a loose plan, but as far as in theaters, in releases, we're at the dead part of the year as far as horror movies. So you're not getting too many.
There are a couple good ones coming out.
It's few and far between though. Like
the next one we're gonna see, or at least I think we should see, is The Turning.
Yeah, we're gonna see that, but I don't necessarily know it's gonna be good. But we are gonna see it. It's a retelling of a classic, the Turning of the Screw.
Yeah.
But that's not till the 24th, so we have a game plan for next week's episode. But it's looser, so if you have any suggestions or any movies you want us to review, just reach out, send us an email at huntershorrorvision@gmail.com. As well as you could reach out to us, give us a follow on Twitter at HorrorVision, shoot us a DM, we're always on there. If you're listening to our podcast, that means you found it. If you're cool with the service, the platform that you found it on, like, great, follow us, give us a review, something like that. If not, we're on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, pretty much all of those. So hey, go on all of them, like all of them, review all of them. I don't care. I mean, I can a little bit care. So definitely get on that, as well as we're starting to pick up content on our YouTube page. So if you search Hunter's Horror Vision on there as well, in the past week we actually just released, it's about 30-40 minute gameplay of us doing a let's play of the survival horror game The Forest, which I think actually turned out pretty well. I don't know about you, Boog, but I thought it turned out pretty well. But we're gonna do some more things like that, as well as start getting into some trailer reviews, because there has been some cool horror trailers that have come out early on in this year so far. So we're gonna start getting on that. So definitely go over there, give us a like, subscribe if you want to, and
link it. Don't forget to link
it. I don't know what that even means.
It means that you should share
links to our
podcast.
Links. Yeah, if you want to, the podcasts or stream there as well.
Link, subscribe.
Other than that, I think we're all done here. I think we did it, Boog. That's another one. Hey, that's another one for the fire.
Oh boy. So how many more do we have to get in before I tell my mom, like, hey, I'm not working anymore?
You said I'd never make it, Mom.
Ma, I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going down Hollywood Boulevards.
A lot more, Boog.
Ma, you see that? That's gonna be my star one day. No one's gonna remember who Tom Hanks is 70 years from now.
All right, well, so long and good night.
Good night.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
coming to get you, Barbara.
Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.